Hello friends, let us now learn about the continuation of seizures. Treatment of seizures. So in pharmacology we have learned few drugs which are used in the seizure management. Now let us learn about the next remaining drugs. So first drug which I would like to discuss in this chapter now is carbamazepine. So this is carbamazepine, sorry. Okay, this carbamazepine mainly it inhibits sodium channels and thus decreases cell excitability. It has lithium like action, and because of this lithium like action that this carbamazepine has, it is used in bipolar disorder. Then it is also activates ADH on the renal tubules. Okay, so if you see, the uses are, it is used as drug of choice in certain conditions, like carbamazepine is used as drug of choice in partial seizures. It is used as drug of choice in trigeminal neuralgia, gasopharyngeal neuralgia, and also benign Rolandic epilepsy of childhood. So if you see pharmacokinetics, carbamazepine gets converted into 10,11 epoxy carbamazepine. This 10,11 epoxy carbamazepine is the active metabolite and it is CYP enzyme inducer. Okay, remember, this is very important. It is a CYP, sorry, this is CYP enzyme inducer. Okay, so this carbamazepine gets converted into its active metabolite, that is 10,11 epoxy carbamazepine. Then if you see, first we will see the side effects of carbamazepine. Okay, so if you see the side effects of carbamazepine, in this the most important side effect is the hematological side effects are most important, but if you see, there are some CNS side effects like confusion, ataxia, vertigo, rashes, blurring of vision, dizziness, diplopia. All these side effects are seen. Along with that, if you see the hematological side effects, there is agranulocytosis, aplastic anemia, the patient has leukopenia and eosinophilia. So these are the various hematological side effects which are seen due to carbamazepine. And it also causes hypersensitivity reaction. In the hypersensitivity reaction, it causes Steven-Johnson syndrome, or it can cause photosensitivity also. Okay, then it also causes ADH like action. That means in ADH like action is it causes dilutional hyponatremia. So it causes ADH like action, that is dilutional hyponatremia. Then it also causes splenomegaly. Remember, this carbamazepine is teratogenic. See, most of the anti-epileptic drugs are teratogenic. We will learn about that teratogenicity also in a minute. Okay, what drugs are used, should be used in the pregnancy also. The important thing is this carbamazepine is contraindicated in two disorders. It is contraindicated in diabetes mellitus and traumatic pain. Okay, now interactions, if you see, this carbamazepine, it is some of the drugs activate this carbamazepine metabolism, whereas some drugs inhibit the carbamazepine metabolism, whereas some others will activate the carbamazepine metabolism. The drugs which inhibit the carbamazepine metabolism are erythromycin, fluoxetine, and isoniazid. These drugs are inhibiting the carbamazepine metabolism, and the drugs which activate carbamazepine metabolism are phenytoin, phenobarbital, valproate, and it itself also activate the carbamazepine metabolism. Remember, the drugs which activate the carbamazepine metabolism are enzyme inducers, whereas the drugs which inhibit carbamazepine metabolism are enzyme inhibitors. Okay, so there is the next drug which is important here is oxcarbamazepine. So in this oxcarbamazepine, it undergoes metabolism and it gets converted to this carbamazepine. The important characteristics of oxcarbamazepine is, in oxcarbamazepine there is less risk of hepatotoxicity, and here in oxcarbamazepine water retention is more in oxcarbamazepine than in carbamazepine. Okay, then the next anti-seizure drug is about locasamide. So this locasamide, if you see, the mechanism of action of locasamide is, even this acts by inhibiting sodium channel, so it has increased inactivated sodium channel. Okay, one more thing which it inhibits, it activates, is it will bind with collapsin response mediator protein 2, and once it binds to this response mediator protein 2, and this will decrease the brain derived natriuretic peptide and neurotransmitter NT3 effect on axonal and dendritic growth. So because of these brain derived natriuretic factor, that is BDNF or NT3, because these are decreased, so the neuroexcitotoxicity is also decreased. Because what actually happens is, if there is CRMP2, which is collapsin response mediator protein 2, this collapsin response mediator protein 2 will normally, this is what occurs normally. So this normally releases a brain derived neurotropic factor. Sorry, I told natriuretic factor, I think. Sorry, I'm really sorry. This collapsin response mediator protein 2 releases brain derived neurotropic factor, and this brain derived neurotropic factor excites the membrane excitability, and thus it is neuroexcitability. It is used in neuroexcitability and it causes seizures. But when this locosamide is given, this binds to this collapsin response mediator protein, and once it binds to this, it will inhibit this release, and as a result it will inhibit excitability, and thus it inhibits seizures. So that is the main pathway of this locosamide. Then what are the uses of this locosamide? Locosamide is used as an adjunct. It is not a drug of choice, but it is used as an adjunct is partial and focal seizures, and there are important side effects like ataxia, depression, vertigo, diplopia. Ataxia, vertigo, diplopia, cardiac arrhythmias and depression are the side effects which are seen with locosamide. Next, the next anti-seizure drug or anti-epileptic drug which we are going to learn is about rufinamide. This rufinamide is also a newer drug. It is also a potential inhibitor of sodium channels, and one more important action is it blocks MGLR5 receptor blocker. This R is receptor, this symbol is blocker, so it also blocks MGLRU5 receptor. Okay, and it is used as an adjunct in Lennox-Gastaut syndrome and also in partial seizures. Then the next sodium channel inhibitor which is important is topiramate. So this topiramate is also a sodium channel inhibitor. This also blocks the sodium channels and thus inactivates the sodium channels. Okay, and it inhibits glutamate release. This also inhibits one more receptor which is AMPA receptor, is also inhibited by this topiramate. Okay, it also hyperpolarizes the potassium channels in the neuron. Because it hyperpolarizes the potassium channels in the neuron, it will decrease the impulse transmission. Then it also activates GABA receptor. GABA being an inhibitory neurotransmitter, when GABA is activated, obviously the seizures are inhibited, right? Now, what are the side effects of this topiramate? So if you see, the side effects of this topiramate include, there is weight loss. The main side effects include weight loss, renal stones. There is weight loss definitely, and there is renal stones also. Important thing is renal stones. These are not loss. This is stones, development of stones, because it has weak carbonic anhydrase activity that will lead to development of renal stones. Okay, it also causes weight loss and it causes paresthesias. And one important thing that is seen in topiramate is word finding difficulties are common in topiramate. In topiramate, word finding difficulties, paresthesias, renal stones and weight loss are seen. I'll write it with black. Okay, so these are the side effects of topiramate. Now, what are the uses of topiramate? So once we have learned about the side effects, uses, the uses of topiramate include, we have they can be used in other types of seizures like generalized tonic-clonic seizures, partial seizures, Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, alcoholic withdrawal, and they can be used to decrease the alcoholic craving, has prophylaxis of migraine, and in restless leg syndrome, and in obesity. So these are the different uses of topiramate. So topiramate can be used as generalized tonic-clonic seizures, partial seizures, Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, alcoholic withdrawal syndrome. The topiramate can also be used to decrease the alcoholic craving. It can be used as prophylaxis of migraine and restless leg syndrome and in obesity. Okay, next, the next drug which is important here is about zonisamide. See, what is the mechanism of action of this zonisamide? This zonisamide will inhibit sodium channels, and it will also inhibit type T type of calcium channels. It inhibits sodium channels and also T type of calcium channels. So zonisamide, the mechanism of action is it inhibits sodium channels, and it also inhibits T type of calcium channels. So what are the uses of zonisamide? Uses are these are used in partial seizures, generalized tonic-clonic seizures, Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, and infantile spasms. It's not a drug of choice, but you can use in these seizures. Then what are the side effects of this zonisamide? The side effects of this zonisamide are this is also a carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. So because this is also a carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, it can result in renal stones or metabolic acidosis. Whenever there is chances of metabolic acidosis, then we will have to monitor the zonisamide level, and there can be headache and irritability which is seen with zonisamide, and sometimes amnesia and drowsiness are also reported with zonisamide. Okay, one important thing is all these drugs all this zonisamide which is used, all these uses of zonisamide are not the drug of choice. So zonisamide is used in partial seizures, generalized tonic-clonic seizures, Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, and infantile spasms. But what are the drug of choice? We will see the drug of choice of them clearly. So drug of choice of partial seizures is carbamazepine. Drug of choice for generalized tonic-clonic seizures is valproate. Drug of choice for Lennox-Gastaut syndrome is valproate. Drug of choice for infantile spasm is ACTH. Okay, adrenocorticotropic hormone. Then the next group of disorders which are N type of calcium channels. These are the drugs on which the N type of which acts on N type of calcium channels. So these include lamotrigine, pregabalin, and gabapentin. Okay, lamotrigine, pregabalin, and gabapentin are the drugs which act on N type of calcium channels. So first we will learn about the gabapentin. So what is gabapentin? This gabapentin will activate the GABA release, and it will also inhibit the N type of calcium channels. Because it inhibits the N type of calcium channels, there is decreased calcium entry into the presynaptic neuron, and thus because of decreased calcium entry in the presynaptic neuron, it will decrease the release of glutamate. Okay, that is the main mechanism of action of gabapentin. It inhibits N type of calcium channels, and it also activates GABA release. Then what are the uses of gabapentin? Gabapentin is mainly used as drug of choice for neuropathic pain. So which type of neuropathic pain? It is used in post-herpetic neuralgia and diabetes mellitus neuropathic pain. So this is important. Next we have side effects. Side effects, if you see, these gabapentin, it causes important side effects like somnolence, ataxia, tremors. There can be dizziness, headache, and weight gain. So these are the different side effects which are seen with gabapentin. So if you see here, for calcium enters the neuron synapse through alpha 2 delta 1 subunit receptor, and this calcium inhibits the actually activates the release of glutamate into the synapse. But here when we use gabapentin, this gabapentin will block the release of calcium. This blocks this N type of calcium channels, and because they block this N type of calcium channels, the calcium channels cannot enter into the synaptic neuron itself, and there is no release of glutamate. Then what about the pharmacokinetics? Gabapentin, it binds to the saturable transport system from the gut, and it has non-linear pharmacokinetics, and it binds to saturable transport system from the gut. So the next drug is pregabalin. Pregabalin is used in pregabalin is also a similar action to gabapentin, and it is used in fibromyalgia, and this pregabalin is used in fibromyalgia. The next group of drugs which are important are SV2, SVA2 inhibitors. These include two drugs which are levetiracetam and brivaracetam. So what does these do? See, for glutamate to be released, there is one more receptor which is called as SV2A, which is synaptic vesicular protein A. This synaptic vesicular protein A helps in formation of vesicle of glutamate in the nerve terminal, so that glutamate can easily released into the synapse by exocytosis. But this levetiracetam and brivaracetam will inhibit this synaptic vesicular protein, and once they inhibit this synaptic vesicular protein, this will lead to the decreased release of glutamate and increased GABA release. Okay, one important thing which is very important for this levetiracetam and brivaracetam is it is contraindicated in absence seizures and myoclonic seizures. It is mainly contraindicated in absence and myoclonic seizures. What are the side effects? The side effects of these levetiracetam and brivaracetam, most common side effect is somnolence. It can also cause asthenia and sedation. What are the uses? See, this levetiracetam or brivaracetam is used as drug of choice for juvenile myoclonic epilepsy. It is used as drug of choice in juvenile myoclonic epilepsy. And one more important thing is it is least teratogenic, and because it is least teratogenic, this lamotrigine, actually it is less teratogenic, but least teratogenic is lamotrigine followed by levetiracetam. So these are the two drugs which are less teratogenic when compared to other anti-epileptic drugs. Then we have receptor inhibitors. So we have two different types of receptors which act as receptor inhibitors and which are important. One, we have NMDA receptor inhibitors. Second, we have AMPA receptor inhibitors. Okay, NMDA receptor inhibitor is mainly the NMDA receptor inhibitor is felbamate. This felbamate is used in Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, and it has side effect of hepatotoxicity and aplastic anemia. Felbamate is an NMDA receptor inhibitor which is used in Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, and it has a side effect of hepatotoxicity and aplastic anemia. Then in AMPA receptor inhibitor are perampanel and telampanel. This perampanel, telampanel and the other, see the easy to remember AMPA, AMPA is there. So perampanel, telampanel, and these also include topiramate, lamotrigine and phenobarbital. Okay, so all these are used in the focal seizures. Next we have the next group of disorders which are next group of drugs which are T-typed calcium channels. So these T-typed calcium channels include, first we have the first drug is ethosuximide. So in the ethosuximide, it inhibits the T-typed calcium channels. Once these calcium channels are inhibited, the calcium cannot enter into the a nerve terminal, and as a result there is no sodium nerve impulse transmission. Okay, so what are the uses of this ethosuximide or ethosuximide? The uses of this ethosuximide are, it is used as drug of choice in absence seizures. It is used as drug of choice in absence seizures in children less than 2 years of age. We can use this ethosuximide as drug of choice. Then what are the side effects? The main side effects of this is it can cause GI symptoms. Most commonly it can cause GI symptoms or CNS symptoms like restlessness, agitation, anxiety, inability to concentrate. All these can occur. Sometimes hypersensitivity reaction in the form of rashes is also common in ethosuximide. Okay, the next drug which is important here is trimethadone. So what is this trimethadone? Trimethadone is no longer used now and it is withdrawn. Why is it withdrawn? Because it is withdrawn because of the side effect which is reversible hemalropia. This reversible hemalropia has resulted. What is hemalropia? That is, it has both photophobia and glare effect. Because of this eye complication, it has been withdrawn in the market, and this trimethadone has been withdrawn. Then the next group of drugs are those which are increase the GABA. Okay, we will see the drugs which will increase the GABA action. So the drugs which increase the GABA and its action include, the first group of the drugs are first SV2A. These include the following drugs. 1, SV2A or synaptic vesicle transport inhibitors or drugs which are mediated through chloride channels. Then these include GABA transaminase inhibitors and also GAT1 inhibitors. So we will see each of them in detail. Okay, SV2A inhibitors are already dealt, and these include levetiracetam and brivaracetam. Right now the next. So how does these act? Where does these act? See, normally this is synaptic vesicle. So this synaptic vesicle into the synaptic vesicle, this GABA gets entered, and this GABA will be released outside into the synapse, and this GABA acts on the chloride channels. So if you see, these SV2A inhibitors will act on this SV2A receptor, and it inhibits this protein channel, and this GABA mediated chloride inhibitors, these will inhibit this chloride channel. These mainly include benzodiazepines and barbiturate drugs. Okay, we will see each drugs in detail. Okay, so first group of drugs here is drugs which are acting on GABA mediated chloride channels. So these mainly include, the first group of drugs are benzodiazepines. So these benzodiazepines increase the frequency of opening of chloride channels. See, remember, benzodiazepines increases the frequency of opening of chloride channels, whereas barbiturates increase the duration of opening of chloride channels. Remember, if the chloride channels are opened here, normally think that just these are arbitrary values which I thought of giving you. For example, if the chloride channels open for 40 times in an hour, okay, or in a minute, think that the chloride channels open for 40 times, and if for a duration of 10 seconds, okay, not 10 seconds, I'm sorry, for a duration of 1 second, the chloride channels are open 40 times. If in benzodiazepines, here there is increased frequency, so they open for 60 times for a duration of same 1 second. Here they open for the same times, that is 40 times, but they open for 2 seconds, that is duration is prolonged. Here the number of times of opening is prolonged. That is the main difference between this benzodiazepines and barbiturates. So if you see, if you draw a dose response curve for benzodiazepines and barbiturates, for benzodiazepines the dose response curve is seen flat, whereas for barbiturates, if you see, the dose response curve is steeper. Okay, so this is important, because the dose response curve is steeper, so this barbiturates are unsafe, whereas benzodiazepines are a lot safer when compared to barbiturates. Okay, so what are the benzodiazepine drugs which are important here? Benzodiazepine drugs which are important include, we have diazepam. Where is this diazepam used? It is used in febrile seizures in children, especially in per-rectal route. It is the drug of choice. Lorazepam, for lorazepam, the drug of choice for lorazepam is status epilepticus. In clonazepam also you can use these benzodiazepines which are used in absence seizures. Okay, barbiturates are mainly phenobarbital is the drug which is used in neonatal seizures. We can use this phenobarbital. Next, the next group of these the next group of anti-epileptics are GABA transaminase inhibitors. So these GABA transaminase inhibitors include, the first drug is, we have vigabatrin. So what does this vigabatrin do? This vigabatrin is the drug of choice, which is it is the drug of choice in infantile spasms along with tuberous sclerosis. Remember, it is not the drug of choice for infantile spasms alone. It is the drug of choice for infantile spasms and tuberous sclerosis. If you were asked what is the drug of choice for only infantile spasms, then what is the drug of choice for only infantile spasms? That is ACTH is the drug of choice for isolated infantile spasms. But if you were asked what is the drug of choice for infantile spasms along with tuberous sclerosis, then that is vigabatrin. Right now, these vigabatrin can also be used in partial seizures. Remember, this is important. This vigabatrin is contraindicated. This is very important. This vigabatrin is contraindicated in absent seizures, myoclonic seizures, if there is any pre-existing visual defects. So this vigabatrin is contraindicated in these situations, in absent seizures, in myoclonic seizures, and in pre-existing visual field defects. Now, what are the side effects of these vigabatrin? One important side effect is visual field defect. So here you see there is tubular vision and tunnel vision. So this shows as peripheral retinal atrophy. This shows the features of peripheral retinal atrophy. Here you see weight gain and amnesia also. There is depression and psychosis associated with this vigabatrin, and thus there is restricted use of vigabatrin has been noticed. Then we have next group, which is called as GAT1 inhibitors. So what are these GAT1 inhibitors? So one drug which is very important in GAT1 inhibitor is tiagabin. Tiagabin is an important drug in GAT1 inhibitor. So this is GAT1 is GABA transaminase inhibitor. Okay. So if you see, this GABA is transported through a channel which is called as GAT1. So GAT1 inhibitor will inhibit this GAT1 channel, and thus it will increase the GABA transport. One important thing is this tiagabin has been contraindicated in absence seizures and myoclonic seizures. What are the other drugs which are contraindicated in absence and myoclonic seizures? If you remember, it is tiagabin and vigabatrin we have just seen, right? And also carbamazepine, oxcarbamazepine are contraindicated in absence and myoclonic seizures. Then levetiracetam and bevaricitam is also contraindicated in absence and myoclonic seizures. Now, what are the side effects of these? If you see side effects, they are the general side effects like sedation, nervousness, asthenia, amnesia are seen. These are used in partial seizures. What is this? This is tiagabin. Then the next drug is about potassium channel opener. This potassium channel opener is, what is the drug potassium channel opener? It is retigabin or ezagabine. Retigabin or ezagabine. What does this potassium channel opener retigabin or ezagabine do? It will increase the potassium efflux, and thus it causes hyperpolarization. It causes potassium opening, leading to hyperpolarization. It is used as a third line drug in partial seizures. What are the side effects? Side effects are very important. It causes retinal and skin pigmentation, and it also causes urinary retention. What is the drug? That is retigabin or ezogabine. Then, so we will, so what till now you have learnt all the drugs which were used in the seizures. So what are the drugs used in the seizures? What are the drug of choice? So we can divide the seizures into three types: focal seizures, absence seizures, Lennox-Gastaut seizures. We have myoclonic seizures, generalized tonic-clonic seizures. Okay, so these are the different types. So in this we will see the drug of choice of focal seizures is mainly carbamazepine, but you can also use lamotrigine or oxcarbamazepine, levetiracetam, phenytoin and rufinamide also. So what are the drugs which you can use? You can use lamotrigine, oxcarbamazepine, carbamazepine, levetiracetam, phenytoin and rufinamide. Okay, this is given by the mnemonic LOCAL PR, that is lamotrigine, oxcarbamazepine, carbamazepine, levetiracetam, phenytoin and rufinamide. Then in absence seizures we can use clonazepam. Valproic acid is the drug of choice for absence seizures more than 2 years. If it is less than 2 years, we can give ethosuximide in the absence seizures. Okay, the drugs mainly used in absence seizures are clonazepam, valproate, ethosuximide, lamotrigine. So this is CVEL. Then we have Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. In Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, valproate is the drug of choice. You can also use topiramate, zonisamide, felbamate and rufinamide. Then we will see all the drug of choices. I have already told you a couple of times. Okay, so the drug of choices, these are important. Okay, so what is the drug of choice in pregnancy? The drug of choice in pregnancy is lamotrigine. The drug of choice in pregnancy is lamotrigine. Then what is the drug of choice for absence seizures? Drug of choice for absence seizures are myoclonic seizures, atonic seizures, Lennox-Gastaut syndrome and tonic seizures. For all these, the drug of choice is valproate. For absence seizures, myoclonic seizures, atonic seizures, Lennox-Gastaut syndrome and tonic seizures, the drug of choice is valproate. Then for focal seizures, the drug of choice is carbamazepine. For focal seizures, drug of choice is carbamazepine. Then for febrile seizures, we can use diazepam in per rectal route. For status epilepticus, lorazepam is the drug of choice. For infantile spasm, ACTH is used as drug of choice. And if infantile spasm is associated with tuberous sclerosis, then vigabatrin is used as drug of choice. If there is juvenile myoclonic epilepsy, then levetiracetam is used as drug of choice. Then drug of choice of seizures in eclampsia is magnesium sulfate is used for drug of choice in seizures in eclampsia. Then what about the epilepsy in pregnancy? Epilepsy in pregnancy, if you see, the anti-epileptic which is used in pregnancy, most commonly it causes neural tube defects. Okay, so these neural tube defects are mainly associated, mostly associated with valproate. These neural tube defects which you are talking, which is the most common side effect with anti-epileptics, is neural tube defects. These neural tube defects are mostly associated with valproate. Okay, now what about the anti-epileptic drug? Just think that if the patient is on valproate, then what should you do? Do you think you should change the drug and give some drug which has less teratogenic effect? If you ask me, I don't think so. You should not change the drug. See, for epileptic drug to act and to get stabilized in the required or threshold doses in our body, it takes time. Okay, but if you withdraw the drug in any way, it will cause provocation of seizures again. Okay, and if you change the drug, it takes time for the body to adjust with the new drug again, right? In such situations, what should you do? The best thing in that situation is to continue the drug and to monitor, do proper antenatal examinations, give folic acid supplementation. Okay, look at fetal malformations with USG, TIFA scan and everything. Okay, and if there is any dreadful life threatening congenital malformations, then you can do therapeutic abortion, or else you can continue the pregnancy. Okay, see, these valproate or any of these anti-epileptic drugs, the neural tube defect or any side effect that they cause will be seen only in 1 in 400 or 500 or 5,000. So among 400 or 500 or 1,000 patients, if you take, these side effects are seen only in one patient. Do you think for that one patient you should change the drug and you should again risk the life of the mother and along with that baby's life? So you should not do that. The only thing that you have to do in this situation is continue the anti-epileptic drug which is being used by the mother, and then give folic acid supplementation and do proper antenatal examination and proper antenatal scannings, and you will have to even monitor the drug levels if necessary. Okay, so this is never change a drug in pregnancy, especially anti-epileptic drug in pregnancy. Then if there is phenytoin, okay, phenytoin, there is a chance of having vitamin K deficiency. So in that case, you should give vitamin K is given in the labor. During labor, you should give vitamin K in order to prevent excessive blood loss to the mother. Then think that if the patient is not pregnant, think that she is planning to become pregnant. So if the female is planning to become pregnant in the future, then you can change the anti-epileptic drug and you can stabilize her on the best possible anti-epileptic drug which has least teratogenicity. I have already told you what is the anti-epileptic drug with least teratogenicity, that is lamotrigine. So this lamotrigine is preferred in pregnancy because it has least teratogenic effect. And remember, this change should only be done in the pregnant woman who really wanted to change her anti-epileptic drug and wanted to become pregnant in the future, not now. Okay, then in such patients, one more thing which you have to do is you have to start her on folic acid supplementation. That is, you should give 5 milligrams per day of folic acid, and after giving 5 milligrams per day of folic acid, you should ask her to conceive after 3 months. Okay, and in pregnancy, if the patient becomes pregnant, and in pregnancy you should give 400 micrograms of folic acid per day should be given in pregnancy. In pregnancy, you should give 400 micrograms of folic acid, whereas before, in pre-pregnant state, you should start her on 5 micrograms per day and you should continue it for 3 months, and then you should ask her to conceive then. Okay, so So these are the different important things about the anti-epileptics. I know this is a little boring class, but the thing is I don't wanted to uh, you should do it, you should remember many things. That is the reason why I didn't write and explain it. There is also one more video which is available, which is the written format of this notes with complete discussion. So thank you guys for watching my lecture. Thank you.